Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Mysterious Galaxy virtual event. I am Nick, the digital marketer and director of events for Mysterious Galaxy. I hope you're having a great day, evening, whatever time you are watching this, either in the present or in the future. Today, I have two wonderful authors here with us. I have Kristen Ciccarelli, who grew up on her grandfather's grape farm, where she spent her childhood running through the vineyards and venturing in the deep, dark woods behind his house. I had to say that part. And we also have in conversation Rosaria Munda, author of I should have probably asked the pronunciation, the Aurelian Cycle?
Yeah.
Close enough? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for both being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Now, of course, we're here to talk about Kristen's latest book, Edgewood. It is very beautiful. I hope, yes, everyone have their copies out there. There we go. If everyone hasn't gotten their copy yet, you can go ahead and hit the link below, because that will take you to our website, where Kristen is graciously offering signed and or personalized book plates for any purchases of her book. Yay! And if you have any questions that you want to ask Kristen later in the program, off to the right-hand side, I believe it might be different from what I'm looking at, there is a bubble with a question mark. You can actually submit any questions you want to ask later in the program, and we will hopefully answer all of those. I'm going to go ahead and bounce out here for now and let both Kristen and Rosaria take it away. I will see you later in the program.
Bye. All right, so how are you doing, Kristen?
I'm good. Yeah. How are you doing?
I'm okay. I'm in the middle of in between Las Vegas and Death Valley in a place called Putnam on a writing retreat, and so I'm hoping that my internet stays stable. Yeah, how are you? Where are you joining us from?
I am in Welland, Ontario. If you cut out, I can just sort of go with the flow. So no worries if you cut out.
Okay.
But yeah. And my last time, so I had an event 2 nights ago, and it was the first time Joe, my husband, was putting our baby to bed for the very first time by himself, and it did not go well. So I could hear them sort of like in the background. But now, because it's later, it's a very nice time. She's already in bed, so that's good.
Oh, we won't get to see Sybil. I'm kind of sad about that.
They were up to a lot of shenanigans, or so I heard. So.
Okay. Well, that's exciting. Well, I'm glad to be here with you. I feel like I should give a tiny bit of background on how I know Kristen. I, a long time ago, read Last Name Sarah and was blown away by it. It happened to be in town, and I got to meet her. It was so exciting. And then I was also writing a dragon book at the time, and so we talked about dragon books, became friends. And a little bit later, she told me I'm working on this book, Edgewood, and I got to read an early draft of Edgewood, which blew me away then. And I've been reading it now, rereading it for this event, and seeing like all the ways that it's changed and blossomed into an even more beautiful layered book. So I'm just like beyond honored to be doing a launch event with you for Edgewood.
Thank you, Rosaria.
I thought we'd start by, could I ask you to tell us a little bit about Edgewood?
Absolutely. So Edgewood is a contemporary fantasy, and it is about Emmeline, who is a musician, whose grandfather goes missing. And in order to get him back, she has to return to the deep, dark woods of her childhood. And inside those woods is this sort of Fae king who has kidnapped her grandfather. And the only way that she can get him saved, basically, or convince the king to release him, is if she takes his place in the court as the king's singer. But the problem is that all of the court is cursed, and all of the singers before her have come to terrible ends. So that's Edgewood.
I like it. I like that summary or pitch. I'm wondering, for those of us who maybe know you through the last name Sarah, if you have anything to say about the ways that Edgewood is similar to or different from what we read in the Iskari trilogy.
Yeah. So, well, I would say that the main difference is that it is contemporary fantasy, whereas the Iskari series is sort of, I don't know, I forget what we classify. It's like high fantasy, but it's other world high fantasy, so more like Game of Thrones style world. So I would say that that's the biggest difference. But the other thing is I would classify Edgewood as more upper YA. So there's some more mature themes than in the Iskari series. And Emmeline is actually 19 and she's sort of away from home she's pursuing her dream of becoming a musician. So yeah, she's a little bit of an older teen.
She's really making her way in the world. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Are there things that you find similar that like have sort of carried through? I noticed one thing that I feel like I can't say because it would be a spoiler, but I was like, oh, there's a similarity.
Oh, now I want to know what it is, though.
I guess something that features in the last Sarah also features in Edgewood. Put it that way.
Oh, okay. Well, you have to tell me afterwards. I'm not sure.
All right, I'll tell you afterwards.
Okay.
I wonder if the readers will find it when they start reading.
Yeah. So I
maybe
guess
some have already read it and they know.
Maybe some similarities would be like mythical creatures. So obviously dragons in the last name Sarah. But in Edgewood there are other types of creatures. My favorite are the ember mares. So there are these like fire horses that stampede through the woods at night. I really love writing those.
Yeah, I think you write horses really well.
Okay. Well, thanks.
The ember mares like take it up a notch. What about the inspiration behind Edgewood? Can you talk a little about that?
Yeah. So probably like my biggest inspiration for Edgewood is my grandfather. So when I was little, I grew up in my grandparents' house and was basically half raised by them, half raised by my mom, who worked nights, like really long shifts as a nurse. All night. So I needed obviously somewhere else to be while she was working. So I spent a great deal of time on my grandfather's farm in my grandparents' house and obviously had a really close relationship with them. And then my grandfather started forgetting who I was. And that was probably in my early 20s is when that started. And I remember at the time just like it had a pretty huge impact. And I thought, maybe I could keep him. So it was if like I was sort of looking ahead and seeing like everything that I was going to lose in that moment where he couldn't remember my name or who I was to him. And so I started writing him into this story as like an attempt to keep him. And basically, so that's where it started, and it's changed quite a bit from there. But Emmeline's relationship with her grandfather is very much inspired by my relationship with my grandfather, and her grandfather in particular is inspired by my grandfather. And one of the things that I noticed, so if anyone in the audience has someone that they love who has Alzheimer's, or dementia, you know that they often repeat stories and repeat questions. And my grandfather's probably most repeated question was, what is the point? And he would just ask it all the time over and over again. And it was basically like, what is the point? Like you're born, you work hard, you struggle, people betray you. He was kind of like, maybe a little bitter streak in there.
Fatalism there.
Yeah. But like also like your friends get old and die, and then you get old and die. What is the point? Like he was just like at the end of his life looking back, just trying to make sense of it all. And I at the time I had been rereading Beowulf, which is this epic poem. And there's this like motif, this like motif for medieval literature that's like ubi sunt, which is a Latin fragment. And it basically like loosely translates into where has it all gone, or where have they all gone? And it's kind of this musing on mortality and like the fragility of life. And it's sort of this theme that like runs through quite a few medieval texts. So it could apply to Beowulf. So basically I have the first inspiration is my grandfather, but the second inspiration I think would be that question. So what is the point, or ubi sunt? And I think maybe part of the heart of this story is my interpretation of that question, and maybe like my attempt to answer it. So
I feel like I want to be like, so what is the point?
I know. Well, I don't know. I'm not going to answer you. I'm not going to answer you. And even then, I'm not sure it answers the question.
I'll email you, be like, I think this is the point. Is this the point? Do you feel like your grandfather ever found a kind of closure to that question as he was?
I don't know. I hope so, but I honestly don't know. Like, I think that's part of the point, is like the search for meaning, like the asking the question and then like going after it. I don't know.
Yeah. Now you told me about the point. I got it out of you. How did your family receive this book? Is your grandmother still alive?
My grandmother is still alive. I actually was over there today, visiting her. Yeah, I mean, she won't read it. She's quite frail now. She actually broke both her hips. We didn't think she was going to come home. We didn't think she was going to walk again. She's home. She's walking. Like, she's like a fighter. But yeah, I think like all of my family, my cousin read an early version of it. And all of my family has like ordered copies of it. They haven't necessarily read it, but yeah, hopefully
I'm sure
they're okay with it.
It just seems like such a gift for your family to have. I think,
yeah,
I'm sure they must be very proud of you.
My family is like, they're not big book readers, is the thing. So it may be, but yeah.
So. What was it like returning to it? I'm just curious about a book that spanned so much time in your life, that you started writing it when you were so young and then came back to it now after you're in a whole trilogy in between and probably many other projects. Like, what was it like returning to this draft from a younger self?
Yeah. Okay. So this story has like this book is a long winding backstory, but okay. Yeah. So I'll try and like not meander, but so Edgewood, I actually got an agent with the very first version of Edgewood. And like I said, it was a very different version. It was actually called The Forgetting Tree back then. It wasn't Edgewood. And it was more middle grade, lots of differences. But
okay.
So I got an agent with that. We went out on on submission. So when you submit a manuscript to editors, and it was very small. I think there was like maybe like 4 or 5 editors. 2 editors wanted it. I had to choose one and work with her on spec to revise it, which I would not recommend if there are other writers in the audience revising something on spec. I revised it for her 3 times over the course of a year, and at the end of that year, she took it to her team one final time, and they said, "No, we're not considering this anymore. We're not buying it," basically. And
just the difference between, for those who are not like in publishing, like if you're writing it on spec, they haven't paid you yet, and they're not necessarily going to publish it.
There's no promises. There's no contract.
Then the editing. Right. It's all crossing your fingers and hoping.
Yes, yeah. And it was like, honestly, the editor at this house I really loved, and she really wanted this book, and she really believed in it. She took all of that time out of time she didn't need to take to help me make it what it was. Anyways, so I am indebted to her. But anyways, so I got to the end, and so I had been working for over a year, 3 revisions, and they didn't want it. So clearly I wasn't making it better, or I wasn't making it good enough, I guess. And then I gave it back to my agent, and she read it, and because she was going to take it out on more rounds of submission. And then she was like, "I can't take this out. This book has lost its heart." And I was like, "What?" So I was like, I was not only making it better, I was making it worse. And so this was like, it was kind of like I call it like the dark night of my writer soul. Like I thought, like, okay, I'm clearly not cut out for this. I can't even make it better after a year. With the help of an editor. And anyways, I almost gave up. Obviously I didn't, because I wrote The Last Name Sarah and the rest of that series and sold it and everything. But I kind of put this book away, and it just sort of like, not only was it like tied up with a lot of like grief around my grandfather, who had eventually passed away, but it also like the sort of like grief of that, just sort of like it was like a broken book, basically. I didn't know how to fix it. I'm the one who broke it. And so I just had all of this, like, I didn't want to even face it, kind of. And then, so I wrote the series of the Iskari series, and then I was feeling really burnt out. And then and I felt like I had like the shine had come off of writing. So like when you turn something that you love into like your career, it does change that thing. And I think if you're not careful, it can change it in not a good way. And I'm not saying it was that, but I could see that it could become that. So I really wanted to like find the love again for writing. And so my agent, and so I was trying to decide what to work on next. And Danielle, our agent, I sent her a list of ideas. And then right before I sent it to her, I added one more idea at the bottom. And it was like, I do have this old story that I don't really want to face, but I'm just going to add it on there to have like a more complete list of things. Yeah. And so I sent it off to Danielle. And of course, that's the one she picked. So I was like, oh, I actually have to face this book now. So, so anyway, I that was like my falling in love with writing again. So I didn't plot it out, which is what I normally do. I just sort of let myself fall into it, and like I didn't put any constraints on it, and I didn't read those old drafts. So I started from scratch, and I just wrote from nothing basically.
Oh wow!
And yeah, and I did
really revising in any. It was just like the same story.
It was a total rewrite.
New word.
Yeah.
Or did you ever end up taking any words from the old drafts in?
There are like several scenes that are the same. I mean, they're obviously revised pretty heavily, but they are the same. And there are, like, I would say like that last chapter actually is almost the exact same, as close to the exact same as the early version. But basically, I don't think like Edgewood as it exists today, I couldn't have written it if there hadn't been space between losing my grandfather. Like if I hadn't been able to like process all of that and that relationship. And then also because a huge like part of the book is Emmeline having this dream of becoming a professional musician, and like really going after that dream and like making sacrifices to make it happen. And so much of that is like reflective of like, if you're an author, typically you've had a dream that you pursued and like achieved to a certain extent. Yes. Yeah. So obviously like I was channeling some of that with Emmeline, and I wouldn't have been able to write that journey of hers. If I
was that a part of the original drafts?
No.
Interesting. No. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So
there's something somebody once told me that like, well, what are you afraid to write? Like that's the thing you should be writing, which I don't know if I like agree with that in all contexts, but I think it's like very interesting how that's exactly what happened here.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about hi Danielle.
I just want to say thanks Danielle for forcing me to face my fears without realizing
you're blessed with a wonderful agent. How was what the rights of the music scene felt very emotionally real, and I know that some of that was influenced by the writing, like the sort of ways that it could parallel trying to break into writing. Do you have any musical background too? Like it felt like you did or might. Like,
I don't think of myself as a musical person, but when because you had sent me this question beforehand and I was thinking about it, and I spent like all of elementary school and high school in choirs, so I would go like with traveling choirs and stuff. But with that said, like I was probably the worst choir member. Like I could not read notes, so I was always like I had to like match the people around me. So then when I had to hold a note by myself, I just couldn't do it, and it would just like I constantly let my choir, what do you call it, choir teacher down.
Sounds
So anyway,
were you an alto or soprano?
I was an alto, yeah.
I was too, and it's hard because they're doing a harmony too.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. It's hard. It is hard.
It's impossible unless you're actually able to read notes or
So I tend to sing off key. Like, so my husband is a musician. He's been in lots of bands. So I tend to sing off key. I also like sing the words wrong. Like these things like annoy the heck out of him. But I guess I do like, so we sing like when we put our baby to bed at night, we'll read her books and then we usually sing a song. So it is like music is part of my life, but it was much more part of my life as a teen for sure.
Yeah,
So.
I think it's often a big part of our lives as teens.
Yeah.
I was wondering about also, I know both of us have husbands, who you mentioned your husband, who read our manuscripts, so I was kind of curious. Like, what is that like? What kind of feedback does your husband give? Like, when he reads it, do you like run away, or like do you sit there and watch him read it? Like, what's your way of doing this?
It makes me wonder if you run away when your husband is reading your manuscripts.
I actually don't.
Don't?
Sit there and I stare at him and I'm like, tell me why you just laughed. I'm like, tell me why you made that face. And he's like, I'm actually reading The Atlantic right now. I'm taking a break.
That's terrifying. I feel sorry for Robert. I don't do that. I also don't run away. I feel like it's like he has read so many of my manuscripts at this point that it's just kind of rote. Like I just like, it's like a practical part of my process. It's like, you need to tell me what's wrong.
Yeah.
But I feel like I use him for two different stages. So I use him at like sort of closer to the end, like after it's been revised a few times, to give me sort of overall ideas. But I also use him like in the brainstorming and like plotting stages a lot. So just to like mostly have someone to talk at is mostly it. And then also he reads like a lot. He reads more books than I do, I would say. He doesn't read the same kind of books, but so when I need to like, if there's like, if I can't get a description right, I'll often be like, I need a word here. What word am I thinking of? And then he'll usually help me massage the
supply the word.
Yeah,
that's
so.
awesome.
Yeah,
I feel like
that's
a similar capacity that Robert plays. Like,
interesting.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Okay.
I feel like I want to poll all the authors now and be like, do you use your partner, and in what ways? I want to know.
It seems like it's one of the two, like either no reading of each other's work or like
yes, yeah, for sure,
a lot. Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting. Okay, I also wanted to ask about like this is kind of a curious point for me because I feel like I have a hard time writing about places that I'm not in, and I feel like you write about places that I don't think you're currently in a lot. Like you wrote about the Iskari series, is a lot of it takes place in sort of arid places, and you wrote it while you were in like Newfoundland, like cold places.
Yeah.
And I think also I don't think you were near your parents' farm while you were writing Edgewood. So just kind of wondering like how do you evoke, because I think you bring a very strong sense of setting to your books. How do you evoke that like giving tricks to like build such a beautiful setting?
Well, I do think like with the Iskari series, although the Skyweaver, the third book in the Iskari series is the setting is actually based on like Newfoundland. Like the islands are kind of based on Newfoundland as an island, and I was living in Newfoundland, so that was the one time where it was like in synthesis or but yes. But with The Last Time Sarah, so that is in a desert. And I did go to a desert for some research, but most of it was done with like books. And honestly, like mostly I used cookbooks for like the details. So it's like when you want to evoke like the feel of a place, you use like the senses, right? Sensory details. And like cookbooks are weirdly full of those things. So often you get kind of like cookbook, especially these days, like there's usually like a personality behind a cookbook. Like someone is writing it and they're telling, in some ways, like they're often telling their story, or like they're telling about going to get the ingredients from like this place and like the people they meet there and stuff like that. And then, but also it's like the types of spices that they're using, the types of plants, the types of landscape. You get like all these things. You get like often colors and textures and like all of that stuff.
And a lot of like words spent describing, it's like the part of the cookbook that you're not reading when you're trying to cook.
Exactly. Yeah. The stuff that you skip when you're cooking.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's like a wonderful writing hack.
I guess that would be my tip. Yeah. But I feel like with Edgewood, I like grew up there. So it was, I feel like I just have so many memories that I could just,
you were just working from memory.
I think so.
Did you ever find yourself, speaking of forgetting, like struggling to remember, like frustrated with your own forgetting of the past?
I think like more so when it comes to like the actual like my actual conversations with my grandfather or like my actual grandfather, like that. Not necessarily like the woods or or even Montreal. Like she starts off in Montreal, and I've been to Montreal several times, but more like the people that I was sort of channeling. Anyway.
Great. To make it take it in a little more silly, but not silly, but I feel like you write really good, steamy, sexy scenes. It's just like they're great moments. And I feel like this is actually something that historically I have like a history of struggling with. My editor at one point was like, "You need to work on your frissons." Just like that feeling, I guess, when you're like, ooh. And I was told by our agent I needed to read Cassandra Clare to like learn how to describe like men's collarbones, like poking out from the.
Oh yeah.
So I'm just curious. I feel like you write just beautiful like romantic tension, and I'm curious, like, I don't know, like, what are your thoughts on that? What's your secret?
Well, okay. Well, do you like reading romance or romantic scenes?
Yeah, I don't mind them, but for some reason, like, I don't know, I just.
It's yeah. No, that's fair.
I've gotten better at it. But...
yeah, I think the more you read, the more you can like. I mean, okay, if you're asking for like, so I grew up. When I read a book, if it doesn't have a romantic subplot, like the chances of me getting through that book are like they're not very big. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you.
So I do like. I think a lot of it is just like. It's what I like to read, and it's what I like to write. Like writing the romantic scenes in my books are the best, like my favorite part of writing. And editing.
You could feel that in your writing. You could feel like, here we are. The moment we've been waiting for is around.
Everything else is just getting to those scenes. It's just filler. What was I saying? Was it? I actually, because you had sent me this question too, and I actually like right before this, I was like looking. I opened Edgewood and I was trying to find like a romantic scene. I was like, what can I give? Like, I don't know what I do here. So I was trying to figure it out. I would say though, like subtext is your friend. So like have your characters saying the things that like mean something different than what they're saying, and so like have the thing that they actually want and mean to be like sort of hovering under the surface. So in the dialogue, which is harder to do, but also in like their actions, so like the things that are happening around the dialogue, like just thing like
unleashing of a dress. Someone can't unleash themselves for some reason.
Or like for example, there's a scene where so Emmeline shows up to dinner, and the only spot on the bench for her to sit is right next to Hawthorne. And as soon as she sits down, there's like not enough room, so they're like touching, and then they immediately both like move away from each other. So just like little things that are like little hints. Yeah. I don't know. Is that good advice? I'm not sure. I'd have to think more on it. Okay. I
adore your moments like this. So yeah.
Oh, thank you. I guess I would also say like make sure like it's like so make sure that there's desire, and then just like throw obstacles in front of the desire, which is basically storytelling in general. Like you want your character to want something, and then the plot throws obstacles, but like have it be specifically romantic obstacles, like little things as well as big things. Yeah.
And I think you do a very good job of weaving that sort of main obstacle plot into a romantic obstacle dynamic, as you did.
Yeah.
I think in all of your books you do this. It's like it's a very enjoyable formula, I've got to say.
All right, I'll just keep doing it then.
Keep doing it. So I'm curious about, you wrote this book before and after having Sybil, right? Your daughter, who's now 10 months?
She's 10 months, yeah.
So what was that like? What was it like transitioning to being a writer and a mom? Was it anything about it that was easier or harder than you expected, or did the writing change in any way? I'm just curious.
I don't know if the writing changed. You'll have to tell me if the writing changes with the next book, I guess. Because it was mostly edits that I did.
Okay.
Yeah, it was mostly, and it was like late stage edits. So the bulk of the book was done by the time she came into the world. One thing I would say is that this is not writing related, it's mother parent related, is that I was so surprised at how much I love being a mom. And one thing that I wish I could go and tell myself, like my younger self, is to like have a baby like early, because like you will love it. Anyways, so that's one thing. Like I guess if I have like a regret, it's like not doing this sooner. But I mean, obviously I'm very happy just doing it now, but yeah. So there has been like this really joyful part of it. Also, it's like very hard to be a full-time like parent and a full-time author. It was really okay. So when she was first born, the first 3 months, it's like they call it the fourth trimester because they're basically just like loaf around. They don't really do very much. They just need to be like fed and changed and stuff. So I could literally like hold her in like in the crook of my arm and like type or like edit or whatever. And it was just like, I thought that I was going to be like totally fine. I was going to be able to do this. No question. And then she started crawling and like now she like, it's like, she's like this little like she like does this little army crawl because I don't know why she's never learned to like get up on all fours, but she's just like, you turn around and she's like on the other side of the house now. So it's like, I can't like go off like thinking about how this plot line is going to go because she's like over there pulling, I don't know, whatever dangerous thing off of the counter. Anyways, but yeah. So that's been really hard. I've had to like, you can't just like take a day or a weekend or a week and just work on a book, which is like a shock in a way. That's something I used to be able to do.
Is that something that you were basically done with Edgewood when she got old enough to like become a terror? Is that correct?
Yeah.
No, am I getting the timeline right? Yeah. Okay.
I think like maybe I had some proofreading to do, but other than that,
yeah. Okay.
So basically now, so I'm really lucky. My husband he has a very flexible schedule. So he takes her in the mornings and then I have like all morning to get my work done. So that's working for now. We'll see.
That's good. You have a system. That's good.
Yeah.
So I feel like we're running towards the end. I wanted to ask some a couple more big questions and then have a few fun like short questions. So one big question is you've been my CP for a couple of years now, or critique partner is what that stands for. And which means that like we send each other our work and we like give each other feedback, and that's like one of I think the most sort of valuable things a writer can have is another writer who's like sort of input they trust to give them the straight on whatever they're working on. And I feel like Kristen is particularly good at giving feedback. Like she's one of the best CPs I've ever had, if not probably the best. I send her, I mean, you're one of the people that I'm willing to send my terrible, terrible first draft and just be like, tell me everything that's wrong with this. Like, don't pay any attention to the sentences, just the story, which is kind of a tough ask for a lot of people. So I'm just curious. And then you always write back these beautiful sort of like edit letters that are like, these are the things that you see what's going on, but you're able to see what it needs to be or what it's trying to be and sort of talk me through how to get there. So I'm curious, like, would you have a sort of philosophy about giving feedback?
Yeah, well, I think you nailed it right there. Like, I think, like it is so easy. I mean, I think you have to know kind of how stories work or have like a philosophy for how stories work. And like know how to accurately like assess a book that someone has given you. But there's another piece of that. So you can be the smartest writer on the block and know exactly what's wrong with someone's manuscript. But if you can't deliver that information in a way that is actually helpful, then you can do more harm than good. And I think it's exactly what you said. It's like seeing, like you're trying to like for me, it's like, okay, I'm seeing what the story is right now and like sort of where it's like falling short, but then you're also trying to like read beneath that and like see what the author is aiming at and like what the story that they've sort of envisioned. And then it's like, okay, so this is where it is and this is where it needs to go. And like, maybe this is how you can get there. So you're like putting yourself in the other person's shoes in a way.
Yeah.
And like delivering it in a way that actually makes someone excited to like get down to work.
Right.
It's like my ultimate
I think
goal.
you do really love that. Yeah. I think that's one of those things that's like I admire most in your feedback, because you kind of have, you're like going launch into these digressions, like, you know, that moment in Mad Max when Furiosa turns around and goes back. That's the moment you need here. And you're like, yeah, I love that moment. And it's just suddenly you're so excited. Like, yeah, I'm gonna rewrite 50 pages. That's totally what I wanted to do, because like,
okay,
I love
good.
Furiosa. Yeah, that's it's just like, it's somehow like is this very effective rhetorical situation. Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad.
What was that? Oh, it's also, there's something related to that. I don't remember exactly, but one thing I did want to ask about that is one of the sort of, I think, like phrases that you talk about that I find very helpful, and is that a story should end with a choice between either two irreconcilable goods or the lesser of two evils. Is that right?
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
So my question for you, yes, why is that so satisfying? Why do we like that so much in stories?
Yeah. Okay. So basically, the idea is that your story is working towards a climax, and in the climax, basically, your character should face a choice, an irreversible choice. So they can't undo this choice, and the choice is between two irreconcilable goods or the lesser two evils, which is what Rosaria just said. But okay, so I think it's two things. I think it like shows who your character is in that moment, and hopefully they're different than they were at the beginning. They've like learned their lessons and become more truer versions of themselves, unless it's a tragedy maybe, and then you want to go a different direction. But typically, like the heroic arc, you want to, this moment like shows the reader exactly how much they've grown and changed and who they are now, or like who they've been all along, and it's just sort of been buried. So by giving them a choice, you're kind of bringing that to the surface. But I think the other thing is that so decisions come with costs. So so in that choice, there's a cost, right? So you can't have both goods. The lesser of two evils is still an evil. So there's still like, both of those things make you feel something. You're saying no to one thing, and you're not quite making the situation as right as it could be in the second thing. So there's a consequence of the choice no matter what you do. And I think that that's just true of life in general. Like every decision we make has a cost or a consequence. Yeah. And I think that's like what makes decisions meaningful in a way. And so in that same way, like that question, that choice that the characters face, but like that is the meaning of your story right there. Like that is like sort of the driving it home.
Right. Yeah. And I feel like people talk about like liking a bittersweet ending, not too bitter, not too sweet, you know, like that happy middle ground. But it's like with either of those types of like choices, you sort of force that kind of ending, that kind of
exactly
feeling.
Yeah. So the third thing, I guess, is it makes you feel. So it shows your character, it shows your meaning, and then it makes you feel something.
And it makes you feel two things at the same time too, right? Because you're feeling something. Oh, it's like, oh, this is a good thing, but also there's something bad. Something less than perfect. Yeah. Interesting. I actually had not thought that through before. That was fun.
Hello, I am back. Sorry to interrupt the conversation.
No, that's good.
I wanted to open it up to the audience questions. We do have quite a few, so I'm going to go ahead and start those.
Okay.
First one is, was there a playlist you had made when writing this novel, or is there one now after the fact?
There is a playlist. I compiled like several playlists from several different versions into one. And it's not, I don't think it's public right now, but it went out to my newsletter subscribers, so I will make it public, and I'll put it maybe on my Instagram in my link tree. So yeah, I'll do that too.
I love fantastic playlists. They're always really good.
It's interesting how playlists are such a big thing lately, and I like it. I enjoy it. That's fun.
Yeah.
All right. Next, what is something that you had always hoped readers would catch in your book? Any hidden Easter eggs or scenes that you have put a lot of thought into?
Well, it's not necessarily that, well, okay, I guess like the family question, actually, Rosaria asked what my family thinks of this book because it's loosely based on where I grew up and that sort of thing. So there are things that I like pulled from my life that aren't like, they aren't my life, but they're definitely, the vibe is like inspired by, so there's one scene in the book, it might be one of my favorite scenes, and it's like Emmeline and her grandfather and all of their neighbors who are all very close. They're kind of like found family, sort of. They're all around this table, like having dinner together. And it was very much like growing up, my big family dinners. It's basically one of those, but filled in with all of these different characters from Edgewood. So I don't know if that counts, but yeah.
Oh, that's very cute. Okay. Next, is there any scene in the book that was cut out for the final draft that you wished had made it in? And I know you've done quite a bit of edits, so probably
Yeah.
like, oh, where? Which version?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm trying to think if there's like an interesting one for you guys. There's like, okay, so originally in the very first version, Emmeline was not a singer. She was an artist, so she loved to draw. So there is like this like cute little scene in the courtyard of this school that she goes to. Again, this doesn't exist in this Edgewood or this version of the book, where she's like upset and like something is wrong. So basically in Edgewood, like something is wrong in the woods and something is wrong inside Emmeline, and the two kind of mirror each other in a way, and their fates are kind of bound up together. But so in this original version, something similar is wrong with Emmeline, and she's like trying to sort of figure it out, and she's sitting in this courtyard all by herself, and Hawthorne comes out to sort of comfort her. Or anyways, it's like just like this like cute little scene that obviously had to go because it didn't fit anymore.
Maybe you could put it in your newsletter at some point.
Oh, that's a good idea.
That'd be fantastic. And a reminder for everyone else who's watching and haven't yet submitted any questions, it's going to be on the right-hand side. It looks like a speech bubble with a question mark. You can submit any questions and we'll hopefully get to them. Next one, what influenced the world building of this book?
Sure. So my background, my mom's side of the family, my two grandparents in particular immigrated to Canada from Slovenia. And so growing up, I was like surrounded by like Slovenian culture, Slovenian language, Slovenian food, all of that. And then also like some like Slovenian stories and songs and things. So I had to do a bit of research for this, but a lot of the creatures, some didn't make it into the final version of the book, but a lot of like the creatures in the book are like loosely based. They're not totally the same as like Slovene creatures. So like the Ember mares are actually based on a type of creature. These horses that run through the woods that aren't, they're more dangerous, those ones than maybe the ones in Edgewood, but yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Now, what are some of the books or authors that have inspired you?
Ooh, I want to know this answer from Rosaria too, actually. So I would say probably my most reread book is The Forgotten Beasts of Eld by Patricia McKillop. And that's like whenever anyone asks me for a recommendation, I always recommend that book. It's like the best book. But also,
I hear a lot of people talk about Patricia McKillop. Yeah.
And like especially if you like magical creatures, especially if you like sort of like slow burny romances between like more powerful girls and softer boys, all sorts of things. If you like lyrical, like really sort of poetic writing, but not like, it's not like purple prose or anything. Anyways, it's the perfect book. Okay, so Patricia McKillop, if you like sort of dark woods and like woods in general in your stories, I would also recommend Keturah and Lord Death. That one's by Martine Leavitt. Yeah. Who was I thinking? Megan Willen Turner, basically her Leaf series. Yes. Who
So
else?
good.
Oh, another woodsy book with like a romance is Uprooted. Yeah.
Good one.
So many
What
good
about
ones.
you, Rosaria?
It's like it's like other end of the spectrum. Like probably honestly the biggest foundational books when I was a kid were Ender's Game and like The Once and
Dune?
Future King.
Oh,
Dune?
okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
just like
good.
a lot of a lot of big boy books. I don't know. I think the thing, so like different things, like Ender's Game. I love that sort of sense of like loss of innocence in a big political landscape, and then The Once and Future King. Sometimes it's described as like the way fantasy could have gone if it hadn't sort of gone
Oh,
down the Lord
interesting.
of the Rings path of big, big sort of world building, small on the like distant from the characters, because The Once and Future King is very intimate psychologically. It's like the fall of Camelot viewed through the eyes of like Arthur, Guinevere, and Lancelot. So there's this like love triangle that has huge political repercussions. So there's a lot of like political theory wrapped into like a romance, which I just like, I really gobbled up as a child. And I think that formula is like always, and like the sort of tragic feeling that you can't quite achieve, like a perfect state was like a very powerful idea that I really liked. Yeah. And then Dune, Dune was fun.
That
Dune
all
is
makes
a thick
total
one.
sense. No,
Yeah. Recently, I've been really blown away by Ancillary Justice. I want to be inspired by
yeah.
Ancillary Justice.
Yeah.
Oh, that was such a good one. Good question. All right. Next. Did the pandemic in any way influence the writing or editing of Edgewood? It doesn't sound like the writing because it was some time before, but what about any subsequent editing?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that it influenced the writing or the editing of Edgewood. I would say though it influenced the writing of another project that is not. It's still sort of in the like very very early stages. It was like very much like it's like kind of a comfort book, like everything that makes me like want to like curl up. No, I'm not going to talk about it, but because it's not a thing yet. It's not a thing yet. It's just like an idea.
The thing that the book deal that you got recently. Why don't you tell us about that one?
Okay, that's a different one. But yeah, I do have another book coming out. And I guess I technically was writing this through the pandemic, but I feel like this was more towards the end, so I'm sort of already like it came over that sort of hump. But,
okay.
But yes, my next project, my next book that's coming out next year is called The Crimson Moth, and it is a gender swapped Scarlet Pimpernel inspired romantic fantasy about post-revolution witches. So, but this is not the thing that I'm talking about. But yeah,
okay, that sounds like comfort food to me. So.
Okay. All right.
That sounds so good, and that's called the Scarlet Moth. The Scarlet Moth.
The Crimson Moth. Although,
Crimson Moth.
Yeah, we should probably change it to Scarlet Moth because everyone thinks it's Scarlet Moth because it's Scarlet Pimpernel. Probably the way to go, but yeah.
I don't know. I think that's so cool. I like that. You did a great summary there.
Thanks.
What is your ritual to help you get into the right headspace to write?
Well, it's like it's usually I'm usually up in the dark, like before the sun gets up. So usually I'll make my coffee. So I have a French press. So I get all that together, and then I light a candle, and then I pour my coffee because by that time, hopefully, it's like all like good to go. And then I start writing. So those are my rituals.
Nice. What about yours, Rosaria?
Yeah. What about yours? Do you have it?
I don't know. I guess I just sort of like mosey through my morning, have a coffee, and I like to go to cafes sometimes. Yeah. I don't have good rituals. I don't think.
I never used to. I wouldn't say. I feel like I've been craving stability in the past year, so maybe that's why. During
the pandemic, we had like coffee hour at 2 p.m. espresso time, and like my writer friends we'd have like a cafe in my apartment, and then we would like put on espresso.
That's fun.
It was like our break time. Yeah.
That's very fun.
That is so cute. Are there anything that you're currently reading that you would recommend?
Oh shoot, where is it? It was sitting right next to me. It's Mary Watson, and it's called Blood to Poison. It's about this girl. It's set in South Africa during apartheid, and it's about this girl who has like she's inherited a curse. So the women in her family, some of them are cursed, and it's like the curse is like linked to their temper. So like the angrier they get, the closer they are to dying basically from this curse. It's really good. I love Mary Watson. She wrote the Wren Hunt was her debut YA, and I love that book. And this book I would say rivals that book in terms of how good it is. Different settings, different stories, but yeah.
That's intriguing.
Yeah.
What about you, Rosaria?
Let's see. Oh, I'm reading an advanced copy of a book that's coming out in July, I think, or maybe June. It's called The Last Rue. I'm going to write it out because I think it's hard. It's The Last Rue. And it is this beautiful middle grade debut for people who like dragons, which I think we might have some in our audience. It is about a girl who moves. She's Jewish Japanese. She moves to Japan from America, and it's in a world where all families sort of have a household dragon, but the dragons differ by culture. So they're sort of like Yiddish dragons, or dragons that speak Yiddish, and then they're like Japanese dragons. They're a big Western American dragons, and so in this story, she's actually similarly, it's a story where she's trying to do something good for her grandfather, and she's trying to find a lost dragon. Ryu is dragon in Japanese, to bring it back to him to like make him feel better. And she's learning how to like live in Japan, and it's all of the usual things about moving to a new country plus dragons, which just makes it adorable.
Yeah, that sounds very sweet.
Oh, that sounds like a fun adventure.
It's just delightful.
All right. And it looks like, Rosaria, if you have any more questions, I think you did. It's your time to now ask them.
Ooh, okay. I'm ready. So, what?
Okay. These are like lightning round? Is that?
This is
lightning round.
Okay. Okay. DC or Marvel?
Oh gosh, neither.
Neither. Have you played a good video game recently? Any good video games?
So probably my favorite, it's not very recent, but Final Fantasy remake, Final Fantasy VII remake. I really love that game. Can't wait for the second half.
Yeah. So your book has a lot of trees in it. One especially important tree. What's your favorite kind of tree?
Oh, that's hard. I think probably the sassafras tree. Like they have they're so cute. Their leaves, they look like little mittens. They kind of like
yeah.
Like
Oh
yeah. I really love sassafras and tulip trees too. And it's their leaves. They kind of look like little tulips. Yeah.
Do you have a particular favorite tree somewhere in the real world?
Yes. This is a spoiler, sort of. But yeah, it's behind my grandparents' house, right at the edge of the woods. There's a tree. It's not tree. Yeah, so in Edgewood, Emmeline's grandfather plants her a tree on the day she's born, and it's like her special tree. And he plants it right on the edge of the woods, like on the borderline between her world and the woods world. And it's loosely based on this tree.
Was this tree planted for your birth too?
No, it was not. No. But it's just like my favorite tree.
It's your favorite tree.
It just like stands out. You can't help but notice it. It's like this. Yeah. Anyway.
So like you could go like one day when you're like a famous dead author, people can like go to your family's farm and like be like, that's the tree. And
that's
then
right. It'll probably be someone else's farm by then, and they'll be like, what are these people doing on my lawn? Yeah.
No, it'll be a museum. There will be like little Lego versions of you, like Anne of Green Gables. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Have you ever? So you grew up on a vineyard. Have you ever stomped grapes?
I have, yeah. When we were really little, yeah. So basically, you get like these huge black bins, and then you put on rubber boots, and then you stop them. I don't think they do it anymore, but I did it when I was a kid.
Awesome. Did you drink like wine that your family was making, or were you sort of sending it away? Yeah.
So originally, Well, I wasn't drinking the wine, but my grandfather made wine from the grapes that he planted that are on the farm. But now, I mean, the farm has sold, and but even when it wasn't, they were renting them out to Henry of Pelham, which is a local winery in the Niagara region.
Okay.
So yeah.
And you said you did that as a kid?
Yeah. I would, yeah. So we would all
Child labor.
Yeah, totally. Oh yeah. It's like my mom and like her sisters all had it way worse than I did. They had to be like out tying grapes instead of going to their graduation. And we got the easy, we got the fun like stuff on the grapes. And
that's so funny. I feel like the vineyard is one of those agricultural things that retains a lot of like, it's very romanticized, unlike most farming.
True.
It's, everyone's like, I would love to have a vineyard, but you're showing the dark underside.
Oh no, it's like you're out there like and like ice wine. They like you have to go out in the middle of the night. Well, I guess it's like early morning in like January and pick, or is it? Yeah, you're picking ice wine. You're picking grapes for ice wine in like frigid temperatures in the middle of winter. Yeah, not
is that
very
the kind
romantic.
that you guys have?
No. Oh, we did have ice wine, grapes for ice wine. I think it's Vidal that they use. I could be wrong about that, but
okay. Yeah,
I just have to do that?
Think of all
I never had to do that. No,
yeah.
I'm sure somebody did, but it wasn't me.
You were scared.
Yeah.
What book are you most excited to read, Sybil, when she gets a little bigger?
So I feel like I have fallen behind in my middle grade reading. Like I just don't read middle grade. I don't really have a reason to read middle grade. And I think I'm actually most excited to like discover books with her. Like, so for example, the Wings of Fire series, it's about dragons. I have never read it. Why? Like and it's always been on my list to read.
The kids at school visits say it's so good.
Yeah. Like kids love it. So that's a series that I'm really excited to read with her. Basically I'm just excited to discover books with her, I think, that I haven't read. Yeah.
Of course. If you were the showrunner for Game of Thrones season 8, what would you have done differently?
Everything.
Everything.
I think like actual character development. Like I feel like they took these like fabulous characters and then turned them into cardboard in that season. That was the saddest part for me.
Well, it's really sad. I feel like as a dragon writer, it's like you feel it very acutely. You're like, yeah.
I feel like the dragons were okay. Like they like had sort of the same character development as what they had before, but it was like
that's true.
Else
I feel like I got really bothered by some of the like dragon battle tactics. Like I was like,
oh, did you?
That's not how you would strategize that dragon battle. I spend a lot of time thinking about how to strategize dragon battles. Like,
of course you do.
I do. Okay.
Oh man, if you want that, there's actually I forget the author's name. I'm gonna search it up. There's a dragon book series where they are actually riding dragons, and it's for like a blood sport. And they actually have
the Blaze trials or something.
Oh yeah,
is that
something like that?
Is it a blood sport? I feel like it's like the Olympics. Like I don't think they kill people in that one.
Yeah, and it's kind of like an Olympics. It's a legal Olympic sport. The second book is called Dragon Blood Ring, I believe.
Ooh,
or is that the first book?
That doesn't sound like Blaze.
No, that doesn't.
Amparo Ortiz.
Oh no, it is. Okay. No, we're talking. Yeah, Amparo Ortiz. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. Blaze Wrath Games, and then Dragon Blood Ring is the second.
Yeah. I've been meaning to read that one. I haven't gotten around to it yet.
Yeah. All right. Final question.
Okay,
so two love interests of your books, two great love interests. We have Hawthorne from Edgewood and Torwin, the last one, so Namsara. Who do you marry? Who do you kill?
This is like such a terrible question. How do you ask this question? Okay. So I think I'd probably have to marry Hawthorne for purely practical reasons, because he's a good cook. He's a good housekeeper. He chops wood to keep the fire going, to keep you warm. I feel like I'm just describing my husband right now. And then I'd have to kill Torwin because he'd just like, Just wouldn't quite make
He
the
just
cut.
plays music. He doesn't do anything useful.
Exactly.
And rides dragons.
Yeah.
Well, I have one final question before we go. Where can readers who are watching this now in the future find you on social media, both Kristen and Rosaria?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram. It's just my full name, Kristin Ciccarelli, all smushed together at Kristen Ciccarelli.
For me, at Rosaria Munda on Instagram and a little bit of Twitter, mostly Instagram.
Well, thank you everyone for being here with us tonight. And thank you, Kristen, and thank you, Rosaria, for being a wonderful moderator with some very interesting questions. You are so prepared.
Good questions.
For everyone who's watching out there, if you haven't yet gotten your copy of Edgewood, you can hit the link below and go to our website. Again, Kristen is being wonderful and offering signed book plates or personalized and signed book plates. Just make sure to put in the comments field if you want personalization. With that, I'm going to bid everyone a good night, and I hope you have a great one and see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thanks for coming.